Good evening, everyone. My name is Kamron Robinson. I'm a current fourth year at Morehouse School of Medicine, where I also serve as SGA president. And this is the first episode of MSM Legends Black History Month edition. I'm honored to have Dr. Guy Williams here. Dr. Williams, how you been?
I'm fine, Cameron. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, just trying to get to where you at. So, Dr. Williams,
Excellent.
what
Yes, sir.
specialty are you in currently?
I'm board certified in family practice.
Yes, sir. And how did you get to Morehouse School of Medicine?
Well, I was already at Morehouse School of Medicine. I was a undergraduate at Morehouse College and had the pleasure of working for Morehouse School of Medicine before it was the School of Medicine. When the college initially started, there were two trailers and we had Sale Hall. I was working on a NASA grant for Dr. Sullivan called MIMS, Medical Information Management System. And what that was a physical designed on a computer to be the physical examination for astronauts at that time. And subsequently, that has morphed to what we see right now as the first electronic medical record. Yes. And then being familiar with the school, then I subsequently applied to, and I was accepted into the second class at Morehouse School of Medicine.
Yes, sir. Black history and Morehouse history. I think it's pretty cool that you were the pioneer of the epics and the cerners and everything that makes our lives as medical students easy when it comes to charting information.
True.
And so I just want to get more insight on you, I guess the first 2 years, because if correct me if I'm wrong, the first two, Morehouse School of Medicine was a 2-year program initially. So I want to know more about the trailers and the basement and how that was going through those first 2 years.
Well, when Dr. Sullivan came with Dr. Margolis, the chair of the biology department, Dr. Norris, our chairman of the Department of Anatomy, Dr. Story, Milford Green, were all the initial founding educators there. We also had Dr. Rollins, who was in charge of neuroanatomy, Dr. Smith for pathology, Dr. Cyril Moore for biochemistry, Dr. David Satcher for community medicine. These were all the initial instructors at the school. It was very rough. It was a 2-year program. We were in the process of trying to get a curriculum together, which made it difficult for the students. We had no clinical backup at all. So in terms of significant rotations and the current medical model of education, where you're, say, taught physiology, and then they'll show you EKGs for action potentials, and then you might actually listen to a heart or those kind of things, that were not available. So primarily, we were taught basic medical science, and then we had to pass Part 1 of the national board, and then subsequently went on to our 5 other affiliated medical schools. University of Alabama, Emory, Howard, Meharry, and Georgia Medical College.
Yes.
2 other students transferred to other medical schools, but that was basically the school. In terms of downloading syllabuses and pre-prepared programs and all of those kind of things, it wasn't available. Primarily, we had a chalkboard, and you took notes.
Yes,
which was rough. Yes.
I guess one common connection we have, other than attending Morehouse School of Medicine, is we've both been taught by Dr. Marjorie Smith. And
yes,
she's definitely a crown jewel of MSM, and I was taught well over 1,000 physicians. And I guess my next
absolutely.
I guess my next question is, as a fourth year, I'm applying to the match. And how did you find your way to family medicine? Like everybody say, you don't really pick a specialty picks you.
Yeah, well, the truth of the matter is, I was one of the students that took the National Public Service Corps Scholarship. A fair amount of our class did do that. And subsequently, when we came out, you could only specialize in OB, internal medicine, pediatrics, or family practice. And I think emergency medicine was being offered at that time. Surgery was out. Another number of other disciplines were not available. So you kind of had your choice to pick between those. My plan was I did a surgical internship after I finished my 4th year. And the plan was I was going to come out, serve my 3 years in the public health service, commissioned officer, and then go back and do a surgical residency. However, when I finished my internship and looked at the options of going away for 3 years, then coming back and have to come back and do another 4 years of surgery, I got married and life wasn't moving in that direction. So I chose the family practice option that will still give me a broad base and also give me some flexibility. So after I finished my surgical internship, I went to Oakwood Hospital in Dearborn, Michigan. I was the first African-American to enter that program and complete that program. And then I went to serve 3 years in the Indian Health Service. So it was kind of a selection almost by default, so to say.
Yes,
If I didn't have an obligation, things may have turned out a little different.
yes, sir. So it seems as if you went from Morehouse College, Morehouse School of Medicine, and then you went up north to right outside of Detroit in Dearborn. And are you currently still in the Midwest?
No, actually, it worked out because the whole idea of the Public Health Service Corps was that they would send you someplace and eventually you would stay. It was almost like the northern, what's called northern exposure, where there was a doctor that went to Alaska and ended up staying. Well, they sent me to Kansas, and I actually ended up staying. I spent 8 years with the Native American tribes there. But then I started my career in emergency medicine. Once I finished my residency and finished my public health service corps obligation, I did stay in Kansas. And I had been doing emergency medicine while I was doing my residency. My residency allowed for me to moonlight within the hospital. We had no pediatric rotation. We had no surgical residency there. So therefore, the family practice physicians actually covered surgery. We also covered peds and covered OB. So by the time I left my residency, I was certified for chest tubes, cortices, subclavians, placing interfetal monitors. I had delivered over 180 babies. I think I have 280 babies now delivered now, but at that time, by the time I came to my residency, I was very prepared to do all the disciplines of family practice. And that was the beauty of that particular spot. So I would say, if you're looking at family practice, sometimes less is more. If you go to a facility like, say, if you go to KU, you're on the family practice service, all of the anesthesiology residents will do all intubations. Most of your deliveries will be taken by the OB residents. And any service that you're on, you're usually placed down on the pecking order. So I've seen a lot of residents come out that may only have placed 3 swans or 3 subclavians, or may have had 10 deliveries, as opposed when I came out, I was almost approaching 200 deliveries and could handle the CCU, could handle the ICU, could handle the surgical ICU, as well as pediatrics and emergency medicine. So you have to be careful in terms of choosing your residency, especially if you're looking at the family practice services, because a lot of times that particular service in a big educational institution will actually be down on the list. The other thing about my residency program is that we started accepting patients our first year, and through our 3rd year, by the time we got that 3rd year, we were actually only in the hospital 3 days a week, and we maintained our own offices 2 days a week. You saw your patients there as well as your OB patients there, and you were also responsible for delivering them. So this kind of gave you a little better shift in going from an academic into a private practice setting, which really helped out a lot in terms of that particular residency program.
All right. Yes, sir. So what's your time in Kansas? How you become a Kansas Jayhawk fan?
Well, I'll always be a Morehouse man, but I did go see a number of KU games. But what the beauty of my experience in Kansas is that sometimes it's better to be a big fish in a small pond. And while I was there, I had 3 emergency rooms that I worked out of. I had an urgent care center for about 7 years. I was medical director of the what we call the adult institutions, the Rice Detention Unit, as well as Topeka West. I was also medical director of the boys prison, the youth center at Topeka. And we have a running joke in my family is that I've never ever applied for a job, or because in Kansas, they would say, we heard Dr. Williams is a good doctor, he can do this and that, and they would call you and ask you to help. And I would look at my schedule to see if I can help. So most of the time I had 3 jobs. I had the ER, I was medical director of the prisons, the urgent care center on the side. My affiliations with an Indian tribe, I was also their medical director. So you can be awful busy in a more remote location than you can in a very condensed city population where you're coned in to a certain spot and you're not allowed to express yourself in other ways in terms of medical practices.
Yes, sir. And I have one more quick question. We have students getting ready to take step 1, some getting ready to take step 2, myself getting ready to go into match. What are some words you can leave with us current students at Morehouse School of Medicine?
Well, you can study. And that is the key. You have to get those hurdles. But also, what I found going through that is that all tests have a certain validity factor that they have to pass. So therefore, you have to test for a certain subject matter. You'll have the standard deviation of the test in terms of the easy questions, the medium questions, and the hard questions, and those questions that you have studied that you'll actually be seen repeated verbatim on a test. That involves the standard deviation of the test. So you have to understand that these tests are constructed in a manner to test for certain subject areas. You can't have a test about internal medicine without having 10 questions on the heart. You can't have a test in internal medicine without having 8 questions on the kidney or the liver or certain organ systems. So in terms of going after the boards, you're better off to concentrate on certain large subject matters and know those very well, as opposed to what we call chasing the nucleus ambiguous from neuroanatomy and trying to focus on very acute areas that may only represent 0.1% of the test. You're better off for studying for those major organ systems and know those like the back of your hand, and then at least you'll be running 70 to 80% on the test in terms of trying to pass the test.
Yes, sir.
And in terms of your match, apply to areas that you want to live, because most of the time where you do your residency is where you end up living, because you'll be approached by the medical staff that have identified you, that want to bring you into their practice for practice and future employment opportunities. So you can kind of plan on staying in that area. So ideally, try to get to an area that you're interested in living in, because most of your future employment opportunities are going to be identified there by the attendings that you're currently working with during your residency that would like to pick you out and bring you into their practice, as opposed to trying to join a practice in another city that you have no previous contact with the healthcare providers of that particular practice that you're trying to join. But also, too, make sure you go to a good place that's going to give you the necessary training. So therefore, when you get out, you'll be fairly competent.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for your time, Dr. Williams. I know everybody watching enjoy learning more about the history of Morehouse School of Medicine. One of our historic alums coming back and spending time and dropping some jewels and gems with us. And hopefully the students they see study hard, focus on big subject matter, and pick your residency programs very carefully. So
yes, and the other thing,
yes, sir,
is stay open to opportunities. I find out with a lot of the younger physicians, they're so focused on trying to fit everything into this one box, but you're much better off in terms of keeping yourself open to experiences, because you never know where life may take you and what other future opportunities are presented with that. So don't box yourself in before you even have a chance to know what you really want to do, or the lifestyle or experience. Be open to medicine, and you'll be surprised where it takes you. Because I've been around the world with medicine. So stay open to the experience itself and stay open to serving.
Yes, sir. Well, I don't want to say anything else. That's the best way to close out the first episode. So thank you everybody for their time again.